Windows are supposed to let in light, not strangers. Tonight, we'll hear 3 true stories from people who looked outside and saw something they'll never forget. I was 15 when this happened. My parents had gone out to dinner one Friday night, and I was home alone. That wasn't unusual. They trusted me by then, and I actually liked it. No noise, no interruptions, just me, my phone, and a whole bag of chips I didn't have to share. I was upstairs in my room, FaceTiming my best friend. My desk was right under the window that looked out onto our backyard. The curtains were half open, and the only light outside was the dim yellow motion lamp by the shed. It didn't do much besides make the grass look pale and the shadows even darker. We were laughing about something dumb when I heard it, a sharp, quick tap against the glass. I stopped chewing and froze. I waited for it again, but nothing came. I forced a laugh and told my friend it was probably nothing. No trees were near that side of the house, so I told myself it had to be the house settling. Then, 30 seconds later, it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. This time it was slower, deliberate. My friend suddenly went quiet. She leaned closer to her screen, squinting, and then she said, "Wait, who's that behind you?" My heart dropped. I whipped around in my chair so fast it nearly tipped over, and that's when I saw it. A face, pressed right up against the glass. It was pale, almost gray under the backyard light, and the features were distorted against the window pane. But the mouth, that's what froze me. It was stretched into this wide, unmoving grin that looked completely wrong. I screamed, ripping the curtains shut so hard they nearly tore off the rod. I bolted from the room and ran down the hallway, flipping on every light I passed until I reached the living room. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely text my friend back. When my parents came home later, I told them everything. My dad grabbed a flashlight and went outside to check while I stayed with my mom at the door. When he came back in, his face was pale. He said there were muddy footprints in the grass, not just under my window, but circling the entire house. Whoever it was had stopped at almost every window. The police came, but by then, the trail was gone. They said it was probably a prank, but I knew better. For months after, I couldn't even sleep in that room. Even now, years later, every curtain in my house stays closed at night. Because sometimes I wonder, what if they weren't just passing by? What if they were waiting for me to open the window? This happened when I was 19. That summer, I was staying with my uncle in rural Iowa, helping him on his farm. Most nights, instead of sleeping in the main house, I stayed in a converted barn on the edge of the property. It wasn't fancy, just a creaky wooden floor, a single bed, a lamp, and one small square window that looked out across the endless fields. That window was always cracked open to let in some air. At night, I'd fall asleep to the sound of crickets, the distant croak of frogs, and the occasional owl. It was peaceful, almost too quiet sometimes. But one night, I woke up for no reason, and I noticed it immediately. The silence. Not a single cricket, not a single breeze. Just silence so heavy it made my ears ring. And underneath that silence, I heard something else. Breathing. Slow, heavy, deliberate. coming from just outside the window. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in my throat. I stared at the curtains, waiting for a shadow, straining to listen. After a few seconds, the sound stopped. I stayed frozen for what felt like forever, before finally convincing myself I had imagined it. Eventually, I lay back down and forced myself to sleep. The next night, it happened again. This time, there wasn't just breathing. There was humming. Low, tuneless, broken humming, like someone pacing just outside the barn wall. In the morning, I told my cousin. He didn't laugh. Instead, he offered to sleep in the barn with me the following night. Around 1 a.m., he shook me awake. His voice was a whisper, panicked. Someone just ducked under the window. We stayed up with the lantern on, clutching the heavy flashlight my uncle kept in the barn, but nothing else happened. A week later, though, it escalated. I woke to the unmistakable creak of the window being pushed open. My eyes snapped to the glass, and I saw it, a hand, dirt-stained. Long fingers curling through the gap in the frame. I shot out of bed and slammed the window shut so hard the wood rattled. My cousin grabbed his phone with shaking hands and called the sheriff. Deputies came and searched the area. Beneath the window, they found cigarette butts and food wrappers. Someone had been camping out, watching. The sheriff mentioned a drifter who'd been reported nearby. But they never found him. The rest of the summer, I barely slept. Every groan of the barn's wood, every gust of wind, made me picture that hand, slowly working its way inside. Even now, years later, I'll still wake up some nights, sweating, convinced I can hear that same low humming outside my window. This happened when I was in college. I lived alone in an old brick apartment in Chicago. My unit was on the 3rd floor, with a fire escape that ran right past my bedroom window. At night, I'd leave the blinds open a crack while I studied. I liked the city noise. Traffic, sirens, the occasional laughter from the street below. But one night, I noticed the curtain move. Just a small ripple. The window was shut, but then came a faint scratching, like fingernails dragging slowly across the glass. I froze. My heart told me it wasn't the building settling. Someone was out there. The next night, it happened again. Around 2 a.m., I caught movement in the corner of my eye. I turned, and there was a man crouched on the fire escape staring in. His face was inches from the glass. His eyes were wide, his expression blank, like he'd been there watching me for a while. I jumped back and grabbed my phone. By the time building security checked, he was gone. The night after that, I shut the blinds tight and locked the window. Thought that would be enough. But at exactly 3 a.m., I woke to cold air on my face. The window was open halfway. The blinds swayed in the draft. I called the police immediately. They searched the fire escape and found footprints in the dust, leading straight to my window. The landlord later admitted other tenants had complained about a man climbing the fire escapes, but no one had ever caught him. For the rest of the semester, I slept with the window nailed shut, and to this day, even in different apartments, I can't fall asleep with a window open. Because that feeling, waking up to air on my face and realizing someone had already been inside, still chills me to my core. Windows let us see out, but sometimes they let others see in. If you've ever had an experience like this, let me know in the comments.